My name's Tyrrell Winston. I'm an artist based in Detroit. I started using reclaimed pieces in my work. Well, it was all that was my work for a while, because when I graduated college in 2008, the economy had crashed. I was like, I'm gonna be an artist. I have no idea what this art is gonna look like. And I don't have a job, I don't have any money. But I was living in New York City and there's a plethora of trash. So I was just making these collages. They were very Dada-esque. They were reminiscent of an artist who since passed away, Dash Snow's work, that I was heavily inspired by. He was someone who was part of the post 9/11 art scene. And, you know, they were confrontational collages. So I thought I was doing something that was kind of, I don't know, extreme, but I was really just copying his style of work as I was trying to find my voice. I realized I wanted to do more than collages. Collages weren't scratching the itch that I had, and I started finding different materials around the city. So I started realizing broken basketball nets, and I grew up playing basketball, and there's nothing worse than a broken basketball net. So I decided to do this net replacement program around New York. And when I say replacement program, very informal. It was me, a friend of mine, we'd have our skateboards, ladders, and we'd just go change broken nets. And we'd take the broken ones, and I made these tapestries with them. But the whole idea of that work, it was equal parts art and community service. You can't just take something, you have to give back. And so I like to think of those pieces as someone going to that court the next day after there had been, you know, a broken net and they have a fresh net, and just kind of wondering like, oh, where'd that come from? But I like to do it when no one's on the court, because I'm not trying to interrupt a game. It's not that I'm hiding anything, but it's just kind of like a small gift or a small gesture. If you see something broken, fix it. And from the nets, I started noticing like dead basketballs on courts. And so the basketball pieces came from starting what I call network. And then it's just kind of snowballed into different, you know, found materials, tarps, cigarettes, the list goes on. The thing I love about art and fashion is you're bringing two different groups of people or two different things together. I look at someone like Keith Haring, who had the pop-up shop. I can't remember what. Anyways, he had this in New York in the 80s, and had buttons and T-shirts and all this kind of ephemera to sell to the public. And some art world people, when he was alive, scoffed at that. Like, I constantly revisit his journals, and you know, he talks about this kind of lack of acceptance from, you know, the powers that be. And I definitely feel a level of that, and sometimes I'm like, well, maybe it's because of what I do in fashion with, you know, I have my own shoes with Reebok, working with 47 brand, I work with a Leon door. Like, certain types of people don't think that that's pure enough. I think it's the complete opposite. I think it's the most pure version of it, because you're inviting people to participate in your story in this world. They can't buy a $50,000 painting, but they can buy a $48 hat, they can buy a $100 pair of shoes, and now they're literally a part of your story, my story, and that's so empowering to me. Like, seeing people wearing my shoes or my hats on the street and not knowing who they are, or maybe they don't even know who I am, what I look like, is the coolest feeling ever. I think something that's really important in my work, while I'm working with a lot of found materials, is this attention to quality, this attention to detail, this attention to archivalness. How do you make a basketball that's deflated, that's in a trash pile, how do you make that something that's going to last forever? And that's where it's just like research and development, you know? All those basketballs, they look like, oh, they're deflated, but that's manipulated. They're rock hard inside. You know, when I was working with cigarette pieces, they had layers of fixative on them, and they're, you know, behind UV glass, so they can't dissolve. Like, all these things have to be considered if I want to make something that becomes immortal and lasts forever. And that's something that I really pride myself on, is that quality and that attention to detail within the work. If my daughter tells me, when she tells me she wants to be an artist, no. If my daughter tells me she wants to be an artist, I mean, it would be a very humbling experience for me as a father. If I could give her one piece of advice about it, it's, you can do it. If I can do it, you can. Like, I don't have any formal training in this stuff. So it's like, grow as you go, you know. I didn't have like a MFA grad school community to help usher in certain things. And while sometimes I've had a chip on my shoulder about some of that stuff, or, you know, lack of acceptance by XYZ person, it's never hindered my belief that I can do it, she can do it, you can do it. I'm doing it. I mean, I can talk for hours about this, but I'll spare you guys.